Big story that just came out over the past several hours and days is the fact that, according to a report from the PW Torch, AEW Collision commentator Kevin Kelly has been released on Thursday. Fans first noted that Kevin Kelly had been removed from AEW's roster page of announcers. This was followed by his absence from last night's Collision tapings in Georgia, where only Tony Schiavone and Nigel McGuinness were present at the desk. Schiavone, of course, replaced Kelly as lead commentator of Collision some months back. PW Torch's sources also claim that Kelly's social media activity over the past several days, targeting fellow AEW commentator Ian Riccaboni, was what cost him his job. So we're going to do our best to maybe recap the chain of events that, to the best of our knowledge. There are, of course, maybe things that are not public that we are not necessarily aware of, but to the best of our knowledge, the chain of events goes. Kevin Kelly last summer posted, please help yourself to free tickets and share this message while promoting a movie called The Sound of Freedom on his social media. The film has been closely tied to the QAnon movement, depicting a rescue of children from a child trafficking ring. Are you familiar at all with this?
It really didn't do any business over in Europe, but I am familiar with the story, so I've been following that. And I haven't seen the film. I've got absolutely no intention of doing so. Although looking into it, I was really pretty amazed at the box office numbers this film did. I think certainly in its opening weekend, it was third to Oppenheimer and Barbie. So I don't know how it fared, in the sort of year at large, but it certainly did very well. So I'm aware of the film. I haven't seen it. I will not watch this film either. I've got no interest in it.
So following this, Ian Riccaboni in a Discord chat posted in August regarding Kelly, I had no idea he was going to promote QAnon movies, or else I might have made a different suggestion. I suppose that his name was always in the mix, but that QAnon stuff kind of breaks my heart a bit. Fightful had earlier reported that Riccaboni was the original choice to lead Collision commentary, but that he had suggested Kelly to be hired instead so that Riccaboni could spend more time with his family. Riccaboni continued with a series of Discord messages detailing his personal rift with Kelly, including other instances that he perceived as personal slights over the course of several years. Yep. And regarding his usage of Discord to post this, Ian Riccaboni would admit later on that, yes, the things I said are true beyond the rumor itself that I was addressing. I don't know how true or not that is. Yes, I should have picked a better outlet, aka to the person themselves. That process has started. However, it will be on my own schedule. I own the comments, but I will also own how I resolve what I described in them. No, I don't know how Discord works, and I probably should have read up on private versus not private, etc. I was in a Discord where I was often candid. I wasn't revealing secrets. In fact, it was therapeutic. I was doing so under my real name and have no regrets. I will continue to be in other various Discords, just not that one. So this all took place, around August, September. And then Kevin Kelly on X yesterday posted a response to a tweet from a user that was actually praising his commentary. So Kevin Kelly in the tweet says, in response to somebody praising his commentary style, I do the same thing in AEW because it's critical to explain the why. But the idea of what I bring to the table is lost there because Ian libeled me. So I sit on the bench, valued by my peers, waiting to get my number called. In another exchange with a Twitter user demanding clarification on the libel claims, Kelly further tweets, when you go out of your way to intentionally mischaracterize my raising awareness of the global horrors of child trafficking to a fringe conspiracy theory that everyone knows is bullshit in order to hurt my career and standing in the industry, that at the very least is libelous. Now, earlier today, our own John Pollock asked Kelly for further comment about the report of his firing, to which Kelly stated, it's an internal matter. We are handling it within the organization. Any thoughts on any of this?
It's a shame, really, isn't it? Although I will say, I recall the Discord screenshots, and for context, last August was when All In was happening. It's months ago. It's this August doesn't feel like it's too far away. Kevin seemed to go on a bit of a Twitter tirade. It wasn't just the tweets that you've shown. He was touting his own abilities and standing in a way that was not a good look. He was sort of saying he's one of the best, just ask those who know, or something to that effect as well. I don't know. I think he also needs to consult a legal expert as to what is libel and what isn't. I mean, Ian certainly was critical of his political stance, critical of that film, which, as I've said, I haven't seen, so I don't know how tied into the QAnon conspiracy theories it is. But I certainly think that QAnon conspiracy theories are bullshit, and that while human trafficking is certainly real and a terrible thing, and everybody should be all governments and people in government should be doing their best to stop it, I certainly don't believe it's run by US Democrats from a pizza parlor and the satanic rituals happen and all that kind of nonsense. I don't know how, as I said, how far into that this film gets. I think I've read it as being described as QAnon adjacent, sort of, broad themes being similar and whatnot.
We should note that the writer and director of the film, Alejandro Monteverde, has dismissed the criticism, stating that the film was completed, the criticisms of its association to QAnon, and stated that the film was completed before the rise of QAnon. The film, though, does star Jim Caviezel, who has been a strong proponent of QAnon. Yeah. And there are many other, I think, criticisms and perhaps links that others might point to that I'm not educated enough to be able to state on this podcast. I would suggest do your own Googling, but we should mention that.
Likewise, yeah, it is certainly a bit of a hobby horse for the right in the States. Donald Trump held a private screening of it at Mar-a-Lago, and there's lots of figures on that side of the political spectrum who have made this movie a cause celeb. So there is something to it, but again, I haven't seen it, so it's really perhaps slightly unfair to characterize a film I've not watched.
I guess the other question is, I mean, is this really so much about the film, and is it even so much about the tweet? What exactly is sort of in the language of, I guess, Kevin Kelly's contract that would stipulate what grounds are viable for being released? How much of it is down to perhaps whether or not they are enjoying his performances on air. I would also suggest how much of it is due to just a willingness to be so public, so public to air your dirty laundry. Now, what I'm curious also about is whether or not Rick Bonney has received any sort of reprimand for posting on Discord what he's posted. He also admits that I get the sense he probably thought that Discord was a lot more private than it actually was. Nonetheless, it all became public. Did he receive any reprimand over it? And for Kevin Kelly, how much of him choosing to use X to talk about all this was figured into the decision of releasing him?
Yeah, I mean, it's realms of speculation, and I think it's juicy to think of this as a beef, a heat, between these two announcers. But my sense is possibly it's more about dragging AEW into a little bit of disrepute, because he's talking about being benched. He's talking about being the best, but not being utilized properly. And he seems to throw all the blame at Rick Bonney, which, I mean, he's not the person who makes that decision. So, as they say in my part of the world, I feel like he did lose the run of himself a wee bit this past week on social media, and perhaps he's facing the consequences of that.